Hey, A10, welcome back. Here is chapter 2 of Ender's Game. And so these are the summary notes for chapter 2. And we'll see how time goes. And if we can get to chapter 3, then great. So let's pull it up. And here we go. And once I get to slideshow. So we have Ender's Game, and last week we did the chapter 1, and now we're moving to chapter 2. So we have, remember the International Fleet is, or IF, as we'll be referring to it. We were introduced to that group at the beginning of chapter 1. So everything at the beginning of each chapter, you have a dialogue between the governing bodies, two individuals discussing Ender and their plans for him. So now they're going to test whether or not Ender can survive the challenges of life without his monitor. So if you recall, in chapter 1, his monitor was taken out, and of course it was left in a little bit longer than the other kids, of course, and probably more so his sister and Peter, sister Valentine and brother Peter. So that creates tension in the family, and of course then there's the animosity and the feelings that Ender is better than everybody else, and that right off the bat, Ender is alienated just on the fact that, one, he has a monitor left in longer than anybody else. Two, he's a third, and three, he's just a young kid, okay, compared to the other kids. So you have this young child going to school with older children, and he's already an outsider in his school. And the fact that he can handle academics really well, and of course the IF is wanting to see how he can handle himself in regards to the fact that he's not being protected anymore by the International Fleet, because the monitor allowed the International Fleet to intervene if there were issues or if troubles presented itself, and then they'd be able to jump in. Now there's nobody monitoring Ender, so let's see what he can do on his own. Okay, so Ender reminds the International Fleet of another person, Mazer Rackham. I mentioned Mazer Rackham briefly last video. I'm going to put foreshadowing there because we're going to learn more about him as the novel progresses, and more so later in the novel. Valentine means protective vendor, especially around Peter. So if you look at the traits of Valentine and you look at the traits of Peter, and you take the two of them together and mix them up, and then you have Ender and his traits, you get this totally unique individual that explains why the International Fleet is so interested in Ender, and why they believe that Ender is going to be the savior of the world. Okay, Peter is jealous of Ender and the special treatment he's received despite being a third. Remember, thirds don't have any rights, really. They are owned by the government, and the fact that the parents had to apply for a third child. Of course, Valentine and Peter, seeing that there's a third child, and all the attention is being placed on Ender, Peter starts to see that he's missing out on maybe some attention and stuff like that. So of course there's animosity between Peter and Ender right off the bat. Valentine's a little more sympathetic and more passionate and about having a younger brother, and so obviously she doesn't seem to have an issue with having Ender in the family, but Peter does, being the oldest, and the fact that he's not getting the attention that he feels he deserves. Everything is Ender is. Peter wishes it was him, but that isn't the case, and he has to work harder at moving up the ranks of society. So if you are a person who believes that one person is moving up the ranks a little bit faster because of either popularity or there's just something about that person that the powers that be feel that they should be bumped up before you or anyone else. Of course, that creates that animosity, that jealousy, maybe to a certain degree, questions as to why is that person getting everything, and then I have to work crazy in order to get anything accomplished or acknowledged, that kind of stuff. We've all gone through it to varying degrees, and yeah, you have to ask yourself, why is it so easy for that person and I have to fight for everything? Okay, so that's the big question being asked by Peter here. Peter tortures Ender, taking his frustrations out on him in a game called Buggers and Astronauts. Peter wishes Ender didn't exist, but he does, and for how long, though, is the question, because if Peter goes too far, how much longer does Ender have to exist in this reality? Valentine protects Ender, becoming his personal monitor, because remember, the physical monitor, the computerized monitor, is gone, so Ender doesn't have anybody to protect him. Now he does. He knows his sister will be there, but his sister can't be there for him for everything. But she does see how special Ender is, and if she can kind of be that grounding component for Ender, maybe Peter will come around and appreciate Ender for who he is and what he will become, and better yet, for the world. Maybe by having a little bit touch of sympathy, empathy, and what it means to be human, Valentine can provide that for Ender. Ender realizes he may have beaten up the wrong person and still, and if you recall, there was a fight in chapter 1, as Peter is far worse than he is. Valentine somehow can relate to Ender and directs him to turn his focus of revenge away from Peter. Peter loves Ender, which is, you have to ask yourself, how is he capable of loving Ender when he does all those harmful things to Ender, treats him negatively, and treats him in a fashion that he's almost like a punching bag, so to speak, when Peter takes his frustrations out on him, especially through that game Buggers and Astronauts. In the movie, it's called, has a different name for it, so just take note of the slight differences there. And Ender does know that Peter loves him, but it's kind of a skewed love, but he knows that Peter does love or Ender does love Peter, and Peter loves Ender, vice versa. The biggest question that Ender has to ask himself, he doesn't even know why he's unique. Like, why does everybody is placing so much attention on him? Why can't he just be a child? Why can't he be just a kid? And that's what he thrives for. That's what he wants to do. But unfortunately, he can't do it because there's a plan for him, and he doesn't know what that plan is, and he's got to do what he's got to do, because he's a member. He doesn't own himself. The government owns him, and so he has really no rights of any kind, and which is just adds to the tragic component of this character. And because it's tragic, it's emotionally draining for Ender, and being that he's so young and no support, like his parents can't do much. The only person that really has any, I guess, some protective measures to keep Ender grounded, as I said, would be Valentine. But Valentine can't go with him to battle school and so on and so forth. And so Ender has to rely on the memories and the time that he had with Valentine to draw from. So memories and experiences are very important. It defines who we are, and it makes us who we are, and it makes us the type of person we're going to be or become. So we look at our faults, we look at our positives, our negatives, and all our experiences, and we put them together, and we have to make a decision which path we want to take. Do we want to go this path or straight and narrow? Okay. And of course, if you take a timeline of your own life, and you draw a line, and then the very first challenge you faced, if you have positive and negative, it's too bad I wish I had my whiteboard here, but if you had a positive or negative, if you made a decision and it led to a positive outcome, then of course you go here. If it went to the other way, it would go the other direction, and so on and so forth. And pretty soon you have this heartbeat. And if you look at all the events that take place in your life, you will see that you have, this is your heartbeat. This is what defines who you are. And if you've had me before, I've done similar maps like this on the whiteboard, where you see a heartbeat and you see all the different changes of what's been good, what's been bad, what's been just maintained constant. That's where you go on straight and narrow. Does Ender have anything constant? That's something that doesn't change or deviate either way. It's just the straight and narrow, and that's what we're going to be looking at as we continue on with the novel. All right, so I'm going to stop there for now. That's chapter 2. If you have any questions, please let me know about chapter 2, and we'll talk to you later. Take care. Be safe.